advocates. Today, thank you very much. Today marks an historic moment as we gather for the first time in a United Nations dedicated session, dedicated to hearing the voices of autism self-advocates from across the continent of Africa. This groundbreaking assembly is a testament to our collective commitment to inclusivity, diversity, and the recognition of every individual's inherent worth and potential. We stand here unified by a common purpose to listen, to learn, and to amplify the stories of these whose voices have often been marginalized. The experiences of African autism self-advocates are as diverse and vibrant as the content itself, each narrative shedding light on the unique challenges and the triumphs faced by the individuals on the autism spectrum. I just want to share with you a couple of information. Neurodiversity includes various developmental disorders like ASD, ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, and alexia, and many others. These conditions share similar brain profiles and fall under the neurodiverse umbrella. The global movement promotes acceptance and recognition of neurodiverse individuals. The prevalence of autism is 1 to 2% globally, approximately 78 million people. Despite the growing acceptance, many face challenges in accessing services, stigma, and discrimination. The focus will be on the continent of Africa as 13 state parties to the CRPD have national autism strategies. Learning from autistic adults' experiences on the continent of Africa is crucial, and listening to African autism self-advocates can help build comprehensive support strategies on how it will improve their lives on the continent. As we embark on this journey together, let us remember that the strength of our global community lies, in its diversity. By embracing the insights and perspectives of autism self-advocates from Africa, we pave the way for a more inclusive world where every person is valued, respected, and empowered to contribute towards society. I want to thank personally the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum for showing support to host the side session. It was a major gap that I identified at COSP of attending it for the past 5 years. After advocating for months for the side event to happen on the United Nations level, we are finally on a global stage, competing with other side sessions. I want to thank also the South African government, the presidency, the Department of Women, Youth and Discrimination, and even the Department of International Relations, the South African Disability Alliance, SADA, and of course, Autism South Africa. To start off with the side session, can I ask that we listen and show respect to the singing of the South African National Anthem by Vernon Barnard, who is a South African singer, songwriter, and even cricket player. Thank you very much. Let's show respect.
Così sigeleli Africa, malu pagani su condolaio, iswa imitanda so yetu, così sigelela sina lusa polwaio. Morena poluka si chabasa Yesu, o fetise dintwa lima twenye o si boluke o si buluke si cha basa Yesu sichabasa South Africa, South Africa. Eighty blow van onze hemel, uit die diepte van ons Heer. Oor ons ewige gebergtes, waar die kranse antwoord gee. Sounds the call to come together, and united we shall stand. Let us live and strive for freedom in South Africa, our land.
Thank you very much, Vernon. Welcome to our side session. My name is Dr. Emile Gouws, and I'm a South African white male with short, ash blonde hair, clean shaven. I have blue eyes. I wear glasses. I have a black suit, and I've got a white shirt on. I am an executive committee member on the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum, where I represent underrepresented groups. I am also an adult on the spectrum, an autism self-advocate, and a postdoctoral fellow at the University of South Africa. Before we start with formal proceedings, I want to ask all of our delegates to please take note of the following. Your microphone off while the session continues to avoid any form of disruption and sensory issues as well. It is the small icon on the left on Zoom. If you have any questions or responses, please write in the chat. Please make use of an applause, where you will make your applause by using your hands in the air like this. Please note that we have delegates that are non-speakers on this meeting, and as such, I want to ask us to please show patience. I also want to iterate that we would like to implement reasonable accommodation during the session, and therefore I would inform you that some speakers will also take a few minutes to respond. We have a captioner on this meeting, and we also have the privilege of having a sign language interpreter from Southern Africa, who's probably Swahili. Please be aware that the sign language interpreter will be a few minutes late due to another meeting, but will be with us shortly. Now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the General Secretary of the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum, Dr. Richard Reeser, to give us the opening remarks for the side session. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Emile. Can you hear me? Is that all right? Are you getting sound?
We are.
Yeah, okay. Well, I bring you a message of support from the actual COSP 17, where it's been busy second day. We had Civil Society Forum on Monday, and the full diversity of disabled people, I think, is on better display than it has been in previous years. And I think this meeting is adding to that. And next year, we'd like to see an in-person meeting here of neurodiverse members from Africa and beyond to actually tell your stories, to influence the whole range of state party delegates and DPOs, and of course the NGOs as well. We are a few months away from the World Future Summit, and it's really important at the moment. In the first draft, there's hardly any mention of disability, so we need to be nobbling very hard to bring in disability, including the wide range of intellectual impairment, neurodiversity, and mental health issues, along with sensory and physical impairments, and metabolic as well, often gets left out. The World Health Organization, a conservative estimate, suggests 16% of the world population are infected by long-term impairments. And that really is the key definition. If you have a long-term impairment, however it presents, then your life is made more difficult by barriers in a world that has not been designed for you. The whole purpose of the UN CRPD is to knock down those barriers and to take its lead from disabled people themselves, and self-advocates are an important part of that. We have let our structures fall apart a little bit, and we really need to now be building the fences and building up strong disability organizations. By all means, organize around your particular impairment, but our strength is greatest as a disability movement when we are cross-impairment organizations, learning about each other's needs and supporting each other in the demands that we make on our governments and society. And the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum is an alliance of over 100 organizations, some single impairment, some particular groups such as women and girls or youth, but mainly are 49 national umbrella organizations, all of whom are cross-impairment and are the lead organization in talking to their governments about disability. They don't always listen to them, and they certainly don't fund them, which is one of the things we argue for, because the UN CRPD calls for, in 4.3 and 33.3, the governments talk to representative organizations. And we have argued for a long time now, they can't be representative if you're not funding them to do that job. So we need to see much more money coming into the disability sector from government, not just relying on NGOs, which are a bit fickle in terms of the money they provide one year isn't necessarily there the next. We need also to ensure that the advocates that we have represent the full range of disabled people. And I'm pleased to say in the last 3 months, we have co-opted onto our executive of 26 people, 2 more neurodiverse people, 1 from Canada and 1 from Australia. And that brings with Emile a total of 3 on the executive. So I think that's a step in the right direction, and we need to do more in this area. We are meeting for the first time in 4 years as face-to-face in Kenya next month, and we hope to develop much stronger policies to build our organization. We are pleased that after 5 years since we relaunched in 2019, we are a healthy and vibrant organization with more and more DPOs joining us, because people recognize that having one voice across the Commonwealth really helps to shift things. What we're here campaigning on, and you can see this on a side meeting we held last night with nearly 100 people at, where we had an assurance from the Assistant General Secretary of the Commonwealth that they will support us in getting all state parties to ratify our Disability Inclusion Action Plan at CHOGM, that's the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa on the 20th of October that week. And we will be running some events there. And it may be that we should have a hybrid event replicating some of what's happening here, but wider than in just Africa, so that the voice of neurodiverse people is actually held there. We're still trying to plan a disability forum for one of the side events there, and we're very much hoping that we will get that. So it's all systems go. If you're organized in an organization, it would be great if you can put pressure on your government to support and ratify the convention through the Disability Inclusion Action Plan. All our governments, bar one, in the Commonwealth have now ratified, and few, if any, a few have not done comprehensive implementation. And of course, there's always more to do. And so I thank you all, and I hope you have a really good meeting. We're always happy to support such events. And of course, you can all join our network as disability rights advocates, and then you'll receive regular mailings about our events and our newsletter. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. I really appreciate your commitment and also for your time as well. I know that you had a very busy schedule, especially a couple of months ago by attending a meeting. And thank you for iterating as well the importance of government support. You know, in order for us to be able to implement true reasonable accommodation, we need to support disabled people's organizations, and we need to support individuals from underrepresented groups in regions like South Africa, in Southern Africa, and even in the African region. Thank you very much. Let's continue with our proceedings. Now I have the honor to introduce Professor Stephen Shaw to the stage, who is an autism professor of special education at Adelphi University here in the United States. He has written the books that includes College of Students with Disabilities, Understanding Autism for Dummies, Ask and Tell, and Beyond the Wall. And more importantly, he will iterate the importance of having audience of advocates, the importance of having researchers from the continent of Africa. Thank you, Stephen.
All right, thank you, Emile. And it's a great honor to be with you to talk about the importance of autistic advocate representation in research. It is through autistic involvement, meaningful involvement, through participatory research that we now know that access to mental health supports is a top priority for autistic individuals. And we only found that out by asking autistic individuals and also meaningfully involving them in participatory research. Participatory research requires that if we're going to research into a community, then we need to involve that community in the research, going way beyond studying the individuals as subjects, going way beyond adding an individual, an autistic individual in this case, on the advisory board and maybe asking them for a few questions. But it means involving authentically and meaningfully autistic individuals in all aspects of research, valuing our contributions to the research, just as we would for anybody else, and also compensating autistic individuals for this research. And it is through this research that we're continuing our work in a couple of Patient Care Outcome Research Institute grants to compare suicide prevention strategies, suicide prevention interventions, because we also know that suicide is a leading cause of death in autistic people. Now, for the cause of this high rate of suicide, just one question that I always have in my mind is, we know there's an increased prevalence of mental health challenges in autistic people. And is that because that's a condition that runs alongside being concomitant with autism? Or how much of that is a result of the challenges that autistic people face in integrating into society, developing interactions with others, involvement in the community, dating, involvement in employment, and all other aspects of life? And if the typical population, the non-autistic population, had these challenges, what would the rate of mental health challenges be in this area? So it's an interesting thing to consider, a mind experiment, you might say. We're seeing ever increasing numbers of autistic people involved in research. So, for example, I was just last month, I was in Melbourne, Australia, at the annual International Society for Autism Research, otherwise known as INSAR, conference on autism research. And initially, this organization was founded on basic research, mouse models, genetics, long-term research on autism, and mostly about curing autism too. However, now with increased representation of autistic individuals in this organization, we had about 9% of the audience, participants, 1,200 participants, about 9% of those participants identified with being autistic. We also have almost 24 posters of research initiated and led by autistic individuals. Much other research where autistic people were involved, meaningfully involved in this research. And finally, the capstone of this entire event was a keynote presentation by an autistic individual, namely Wen Lawson, Dr. Wen Lawson, to be specific. And this concept, this idea of involving autistic individuals in research, this is something that's universal and something that needs to be brought to South Africa, to Africa as a whole, and to the world population as a whole. And I thank you very much, Emile, for giving me time to talk about these very important subjects.
Thank you so much, Professor Shaw, for your presence and for reminding us on this course, and especially referring to the importance of research on the continent of Africa. Now, it gives me the distinct honor to highlight the importance of this session, especially hearing the voices of self-advocates and those individuals from underrepresented groups and regions. What makes me extremely proud is that this side session is one which is diverse and provides the platform on a global stage for non-speaking autistic adults to share their stories with the world. Our first non-speaking delegate is Zekwande Matenya from South Africa, whom is the president of the Zekwande Matenya Foundation. Apologies for presenting it wrong. It's an NPO with the mission to advocate for non-speaking autistic adults or non-speaking autistics and reclaim the human rights of non-speakers throughout Africa, especially the communication and education rights. Please join me to provide him with an round of applause. The floor is yours, Zekwande. Thank you.
We are not hearing. Maybe let him unmute the mic.
Please, what I said in the beginning of this presentation, please be patient. He's a non-speaking adult. There's a reason for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience. Just to give you an idea, this is what Zekwande is using for his communication. So he's pointing to each letter of each word individually. So we thank you for your patience. It does take a little bit of time. He spelled out so far. Thank you, Emile. Thank you, Emile. I am honored to be a part of this side event. Thank you, Emile. I am honored to be part of this side event. I have prepared a short speech I'd like my CRP Mark to read. Hello, my name is Sekwande Matenjwa. I am delighted to have this opportunity to advocate for African autistic non-speakers. I am here today to fill very old gaps in the understanding of autism, like an inability to control my body, more keen to run away than sit and work, especially right before an important event like this. Given the gravitas of this event, I have struggled to prepare for something so important, as I have so much I want the world to know about us non-speakers. Autistic non-speakers ask that you start presuming competence and educate us about life, rather than forcing us to endure grievous torture like ABA or shapes and colors for my whole time in school. For my whole childhood, I was undervalued and misunderstood constantly, listening to excuses from expert after doctor, after teacher, after therapist, as they kept reasoning why autistic kids are the way they are and why their leading fad can't effectively cure my autism. Apparently, according to them, I even don't need my communication rights, nor education rights to be afforded to me, as they felt that I did not understand this world. An effective misconception, denying autistics their basic human rights, and instead belittle us by keeping us apart from others in autistic labels of functioning that are measurements of our movements. At this point, Zakwande did ask to spell his closing thoughts. Okay, in closing, Zakwande has prepared, thank you all for your attention and time. You really can make a difference for us here, to eagerly listen to us.
Thank you very much, everyone. And I think he deserves an air of applause for this presentation. And that's why we are here, folks. And it's about us or individuals on the spectrum, for every single one. And it's time for our voices to be heard. Thank you, Zakwande, for your presentation. Our next delegate is Stephanie Pringle, whom is a 19-year-old non-speaking autistic woman from Johannesburg, South Africa. She communicates also by pointing to letters on the board, helped by a trained communication and regulation partner. She passionately advocates for the rights of autistic children to have access to age-appropriate education. Stephanie is currently attending Edu360 Integrated Specialist School. She loves reading and dreams about telepathic communication. Please join us to welcome Stephanie on the platform with an awed applause as well.
Good afternoon. I am Stephanie. I use this letterboard to communicate. and AJ speaks the words I spell. I am happy to be here and see so many people who advocate for and with us. I have prepared something for AJ to read. I'll be reading Stephanie's pre-prepared words. My life journey has not been easy. I had taught myself to read at 4 years old, but I had no reliable way to show my parents or teachers. You see, I have apraxia, a disorder that affects the communication between my brain and my body. Since speech requires very specific fine motor control, giving vocal expression to my thoughts is almost impossible. Stories like mine are not uncommon. The only difference is that I found a way to break free. Others are still stuck in their uncooperative bodies. If I were paralyzed, you'd give me a wheelchair. If I were blind, you'd supply me with a cane or a trained dog to support me. If I cannot communicate by speaking or writing, how will you help me? This letterboard has given me the freedom to finally express myself. Having the means to reliably communicate is a basic human right. Living without it was hell on earth. I don't want you to limit non-speakers by their inability to prove their understanding. Rather, presume their competence and expose them to age-appropriate material. Teach them how to type or to spell on a letterboard. Storing information is not a problem for our powerful autistic brains. We are only limited by society's prejudices, not our intelligence. Since I started using a letterboard to communicate, I have been able to access proper education. In the special needs school where I spent 8 years of my schooling career, I had never passed any grades. Now I attend a high school where I am working towards my matric qualification. So far, I have written and passed Cambridge external exams in mathematics, business studies, and science. Last month, I voted in South Africa's national elections. I felt empowered to exercise my right to vote. To have communication is to have life. I hope you will open your eyes and not have an ableist mindset when considering communication? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Can we please applaud her with an audio applause? This was fantastic. And this iterates the importance of hearing the voices of our non-speaking autism style advocates. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Emile, can I just say that Stephanie completed our training for disabled young leaders and scored very highly, so we compliment her on that, which was a course that lasted online for 6 months. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. And Stephanie, well done. In Zekande as well. You guys are the voices. And we've got Gembu as well, who's also non-speaking. We want to thank all of you that's also attending. Thank you very much. So today, what the next presentation is where I will share good practices, especially in the Commonwealth. And I've got the presentation that I would like to share with you with regards to what I want to say. And when, let me just get it here. Thank you. So, there we go. So Richard touched on this a little bit. And how can we get support from government in order to uplift the neurodiverse community? And I believe that, in order for us to do that, we need to mainstream the education system for persons from underrepresented groups to receive an equal opportunity without any form of discrimination, victimization. We need to develop programs and curriculums to educate public facilities, parents, educators, university students, and other DPOs on neurodiversity. We need to develop training sessions for selected companies that employ neurodiverse young adults on how they can make reasonable accommodation to accommodate those individuals in the working force. Also, within this organization, we need to establish disabled youth upliftment social groups to engage, but must initiate a system where we can help them to develop into disabled activists to represent themselves, like Zekwande, Stephanie, Gembo, on the global stage. And also, when it comes to government support, they need to support DPOs, NGOs, financially with long-term programs concerning education and employment opportunities. And there's a lot of good practices that I would like to commend, especially here in Southern Africa. We've got Autism South Africa. We've got Vicky that's also online, and they do a lot to support families. And with advocacy. We've got also the Easy to Read program, which is brilliant when it comes to making changes and creating awareness. We've got the Special Needs Cafe, which is creating awareness on social media, which you can like on Facebook. But also, more importantly, when it comes to research as well, we've got where I'm part of the NISA staff, we've got programs, we've got neurodiverse researchers that are doing research in different regions, in those underprivileged regions, and we understand the importance of research, especially on these global platforms. But also, more importantly, when it comes to where we are currently, where we find ourselves, technology is the future. And therefore, it's the future of accessibility. So one of the projects that I'm currently involved with as the president of the International Council for Development and Learning, ICDL, but also more importantly, the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum, is with regards to Sam the Hedgehog. And this is a short video about a hedgehog to create awareness on the international stage. And this video is a couple of seconds long. And therefore, this will create awareness, but also more importantly, reach far-reach societies. Let's watch. I didn't share my screen. I didn't share the sound. Apologies for that. I didn't share the sound. Apologies for that. Apologies for that. Here we go. Okay.
This is Sam. Sam is a hedgehog, prickly on the outside, but soft and gentle on the inside. Sam has autism, a neurodevelopmental difference that affects the way he communicates and behaves. Sometimes, people with autism may experience noise sensitivities. This is also known as hyperacusis and happens when loud sounds become painful or overwhelming. This often causes sensory overload, which can lead to anxiety or meltdowns. We can help to manage painful noises by using noise-cancelling headphones or creating quiet spaces. Let's join together to help make the world a better place for people like Sam.
But also more importantly, when it comes to general accessibility, and this is where my greater awareness comes in, is with regards to what we can do to improve society. And when it comes to my own experiences, I just want to share my screen as well. There we go. When it comes to sharing my own experiences, I've got a wife as well, and we are supported by our ecosystem. My mother-in-law, who's our facilitators, but also our family. But also more importantly, my wife Sammy can't read and write because she's autistic dyslexic. And therefore, when it comes to general accessibility and creating awareness of neurodiversity as well, and also general awareness about accessibility of public places, technology is the future. And I want to share with you a project that's currently in development, that I'm currently developing at the moment for Sammy. And the app that will be launched on Google Play by the middle of July is called Sammy. And it stands for Smart Access Menu Management Interface. The purpose of Sammy is to provide a seamless and user-friendly application for scanning QR codes to access digital menus in restaurants and cafes. This will improve customer experiences and streamline the menu viewing process. Additionally, Sammy aims to foster inclusion by ensuring that digital menus are accessible to all customers, including those who can't read and write, those who's dyslexic, or even those with visual impairments, and of course, individuals with different disabilities. By offering an easily navigatable digital interface, cafes and restaurants can attract and accommodate a more diverse customer base. So what would happen is, I would like to share with him, is the function. What is the function of Sammy? There will be a logo and the app name, which is called Sammy, and this will be displayed on top of a menu of any restaurant. And what would happen is that restaurants and the menus will have a QR code on a menu, which the individual will scan with their phone when they download the app. And on this app, the menu will display, the menu will be displayed on the screen, and therefore the list of items with the image and description will be presented. And of course, for those of us who's got visual impairments, or those of us who's also who's got also hearing impairments, the button will also initiate the text-to-speech for item description. And of course, this will help with the accessibility and inclusion. What is the main purpose of this app called SAMI? It will promote the right to information, accessibility, living, inclusion, and communication, and also the right to choice. All persons with psychosocial, invisible, sensory, and hearing impairments will be accommodated in different parts of the world. All restaurant owners, groups, public facilities in Southern Africa, and eventually the world will implement reasonable accommodation. And remember, always, and this is my saying that I always come in when I do advocacy all around the world, depending where you are, which organization you are from, it remains a personal choice not to accommodate a person with an invisible impairment. So together, let us as organizations, as policymakers, as politicians as well, come together to educate society to become more inclusive and more accessible. So our next self-advocate joins us from Namibia, and her name is Carmen Golo, who's an entrepreneur and self-advocate. She owns a small creative marketing agency where she works as a project manager, designer, and producer, working with clients across the corporate film and advertising sectors. Carmen, the floor is yours.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Carmen. Thank you for having me. I'm a Black African female with blonde braids and a green scarf. I thank you for taking the time to listen to my story. I come from the beautiful country of Namibia, a multicultural country rich with history, natural beauty, and impassioned people. Like many African countries, we do, however, struggle with ensuring that all our citizens have access to the human rights we are all entitled to. As an autistic woman, I have witnessed and personally experienced some of these shortfalls, which I would like to discuss with you today. My story is depressingly similar to many autistic people with my particular expression of autism. I was born to a family who did not quite know what to do with me. Sorry, is there an issue?
No, you can continue, thank you.
Okay. I was born to a family who did not quite know what to do with me, perplexed and frustrated by how odd I was when compared to other children. I was overly fascinated with dinosaurs. I did not listen when spoken to, and I found it very difficult to adapt to the social landscape I found myself in. Many of my early childhood days were spent alone, tucked away in books and rooms where I did not have to speak to the people who had no interest in listening to me. I did not know what was wrong with me, only that I was wrong somehow, a feeling that would follow me into adulthood because the system I was about to enter into was very uninterested in accommodating me. Unlike many autistic Namibians, I was fortunate enough to be educated in a mainstream school, as my presentation of autism allowed me to fly under the radar. But my time in the education system was rife with bullying, disgruntled teachers, and a lot of confusion on my part. This only worsened at university, where my mental health took such a drastic dive due to the change in environment that I dropped out. My self-confidence and my confidence in my academic and professional future would not recover for years. Since then, I'm happy to report that I have completed my education and am in a place where I feel content. However, the lack of support due to my autism not being diagnosed early enough has left a significant scar on my psyche, and it would not be an exaggeration to say that I'm lucky to be alive. It has become gravely apparent to me that many of the things I suffered were in fact avoidable. It is also very apparent that I am one of the lucky ones. Today in Namibia, autistic children are turned away from schools, a stark contradiction of our inclusion policies. There are virtually no therapists available, especially for children born in rural areas. Waiting lists for special schools are inordinately long, and access to accurate diagnosis and specialized care is nearly unheard of. Children are locked away in embarrassment by overwhelmed parents who have no idea how to handle them. Adults are left hopeless and isolated in a society that will not employ them or will ignore their needs for accommodations until they are forced to quit or are fired. Adults who are left friendless in a culture that doesn't understand enough about them to accommodate their challenges and differences. I do not want autistic children and neurodivergent children to experience what I have, and that requires a huge intervention in the way we approach education in our country. Government intervention in the form of laws and not just inclusion policies, and changes in the public's opinions of those with my condition. Interventions within the workplace that would allow us to thrive and contribute meaningfully to our country instead of being pushed aside due to our differences. Intervention in the form of aids, communication devices, properly trained teachers, physicians, and mental health professionals who know how to provide us with the support we require. The large inequalities that plague our country also make it so that the great strides that have been made for the international autistic community are not felt here. Many people do not feel incentivized to do much about that, and there is so much work to be done, from legislation to education to public opinion, and not enough people who seem to care to do that work. I implore those listening to hear our forgotten voices and make strides towards ensuring that we are given the freedom to live like those around us. Autistic people are not burdens because of our differences. It is precisely our differences that make us so valuable to the world, if only the world would care to look and to listen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carmen, and thank you so much for presenting your story, your inspiration, and I believe that you represent a majority, and we thank you for your determination, for advocating not only for yourself, but for others as well. Our next speaker is Kelebele Mavuzo from the Kelebele Mavuzo organization, who's the National Association, who's part of the National Association of the Deaf in Lesotho, and Intellectual Disability and Autism Lesotho. Kelebele, are you present?
I can't see the name in the list.
Okay.
Emile.
Okay, well, yeah, so we can move on and see when Kelebele occurs. Our next speaker, I've got the privilege all the way from Kenya, is Dr. Silvio Mochabo Akinsiku. Apologies for if I pronounced it wrong. Is the CEO of Tech Hub Holdings Limited, founder and executive director of Andy Speaks for Special Needs Persons Africa, and board director for the National Council for Persons with Disabilities in Kenya. Thank you, Dr. Sylvia.
Thank you for having me, Emile, and also for this opportunity to have our East Africa voices contributed. But over time, I've realized that we are all in the same demographic and we all have the same challenges. So I don't know if you're able to project my presentation.
I will share your screen now. I will share your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Yes.
Can you see your presentation?
Yes, just make it presentation mode so that it can fill up. It's cut off. Maximize your screen.
Sylvia, I think you send it in PDF mode. So let's see if we can maybe make it bigger. Full screen, there we go. There we go.
Perfect, okay. Thank you. All right, so my name is Dr. Sylvia Moramo Chabo. This is my family. I'm a mother of 3. And the 2 men in blue, not black, are my children. And I'm a caregiver. Both of them are autistic. Both of them have epilepsy as a comorbid condition. One has ADHD, the other one has intellectual challenges on top of that. I represent caregivers and organizations of persons with disabilities in our disability council called NCPWD here in Kenya. I also am a representative at WHO external relations work stream where we are looking into rehabilitation issues. And I remember the last time I was in South Africa, I came there and I left as Miss Africa. That was before I got remarried. Over to the next page, please. Go. The next one. So why I actually went into the pageantry space was just to raise their voices and be the voice of my children. As a caregiver, most of the times when we just get the diagnosis, we are lost and have no understanding or no idea of what to do next. But in life, when God gives you a child, you embrace them. And I believe that we cannot change everything, but embrace whatever it is that we're given. And this is my mantra in the disability space, as we are speaking and seeking to be recognized as the neurodivergent, as much as the general population believes in the disabilities they see. We want our voices to be heard, even as caregivers, that as much as our children look typical, they also need to be included in policies, in education, in health, and all matters that pertain their human rights. Next, please. Yes, girls. In the caregiving journey here in Africa, it usually feels like the moving birds in that movie, because you are just given diagnosis. We're supposed to raise the children and we don't get much guidance in it. So we go through a lot just trying to navigate the system. There is the personal challenges after diagnosis that you face as a family, as an individual, trying to figure out why you, which is especially with the challenges in the cultural stigma and our cultural beliefs, the rejection that our children face. 80% of the times we face it because the purity of heart we've seen in our kids is that they might not even notice, but we know at the end of it, like we had, it affects them, their mental health down the line. And as caregivers, we go through a long journey before we get to acceptance and actually doing something. So this is a truth-wrong thing that the longer we take to accept and anticipate, and I hope the caregivers here, I applaud you for coming this far, for fighting for your children, for ensuring they get the support, they access all that they need and require to make the great strides. I'm sitting on this side of West Africa and I'm like, when are we ever going to get to spellers? You know, so that some of our non-speaking autistics can have a way of communicating for those who are not able to. And there are so many things that we go through and try and strive to make sure that our children get the best. It's what I advocate for is we are not second-class citizens. Our children deserve everything every typical child gets. Next, please. Yes. So we have so many gaps here in Africa. I will start with the stigma, which affects 80% of the community. We are part of the community, but yet we are treated like we do not belong. If you look at the accommodations that we require, they are treated as not important, for lack of a better word. Access to healthcare is also not a given. Insurance, and even basic needs like rehabilitation services. And you find that the charges that we get when trying to navigate to give the best to our children is skyrocketing high. Many a times as caregivers, you're forced to quit your work so that you're able to be there for your child and work with them. At least they get to that point of being self-reliant. When it comes to our social protection, I know South Africa is way ahead in the African continent, but we have seen and we're currently fighting for inclusion in the space even of social protection. As other PWDs get the support, you find that the neurodiverse and those with neurodevelopmental disabilities still don't get to benefit from some of the provisions that are there in our social protection kittings. When it comes to inclusive education, the status of the classrooms, there is lack of devices for our learners to learn the way they can learn. And as I mentioned, it is so impressive to see that at least there is the availability of spellers down in South Africa. It's still a story we're hearing of here in East Africa, and we're hoping that we'll be able to catch up. And as caregivers, not being included in the conversation so that we are able to speak on behalf of our non-speaking children, and also to just put in a word on what needs to be amended so that our children can actually benefit from everything that they deserve to. Our environment itself, our public transport in places where the sensory integration is not being adhered to. And even when you complain as a parent, all you get is backlash. So the community has also just made it very, very difficult for us to give the best to our children with disabilities. And this reminds me of a small story where I was taking my children to take their passport and asking for that preference, to be served first. The person looks at me like, why should you be served first? You wait in line. By the time we started the process, running up and down, trying to find someone who can actually just hear you so that they can make their accommodations. Both the boys were having a very severe meltdown. One started undressing, the other one started screaming. And the reaction of the community was, you're being a bad parent. Why are you not able to control yourself? Why are you not able to keep your children in check? And this is what now the stigma that parents face, and you find them ending up leaving their kids at home and putting them away from the community. Yes, it is their right to be part and to be integrated in the community. We do not have to always wait until the point where our children are suffering for our voices to be heard, because it only took them getting to the brink of their patience for us to be given the opportunity to be served and given priority so that they can be able to go home. Next, girls. So 80% of the time, this is how it feels. Any process you go to, because your child has special needs, you have triple, double the paperwork that you need to do. But our question is, why do we always have to have the extra in everything? Fight, put extra effort everywhere. We need to level out the field. And we have to see that everything that is being, when we're doing policies from the start, the sketching, the mapping out, we are included. And that's the point at which only then that we will say that we have equity in our spaces, when all voices are heard and all our voices and our views are included from the word go, not that we have to come later and start to do extra advocacy for us to catch up. And it's because of the journey that I went through raising my children, the challenges in the education, the health, the social protection system, that I founded my organization. Because if you look around, most of the interventions, most of the schools, especially here in East Africa, it takes the parents to come together and try to know and try and set up interventions, because our voices are not being heard. Next, go. So the OPDs that are standing up and putting our voices out. So this is why I founded Andy Speaks. Andy Speaks because when my child was nonverbal, he was going through so much and I could not understand what exactly it is he was going through. Most of the time, it was when things are worse that you come to discover, oh, this is what was making you so unsettled. So that's why I spoke of Andy Speaks, to be the voice of those who cannot speak for themselves. And this was an inspiration from Proverbs 31, 8 and 9, where it says, be the voice for those who cannot speak for themselves and ensure justice is done. And just to give you a snippet of the work that we do at Andy Speaks, next, girls. So our goal is to change the narrative through the advocacy for equity, for justice, for integration and inclusion. We want to raise awareness and demystify the cultural beliefs on neurodevelopmental disabilities with the different various tribes and backgrounds that we have here in Africa. Okay, someone has asked to repeat the verse. Proverbs 31, 8 and 9. That is the verse. So, so to demystify the cultural belief, because you find some of the communities that believe that children with disability don't have a right to live. The children are killed at birth, or the minute they realize, or parents are locking their children up because of fear of stigma and fear of being sidelined and being disowned. So we want to raise awareness that it is okay. Our children are also human beings. Our children deserve to be part of the community. And this we've done through different programs. And we want, someone asked me, you are so proud of your children. You don't feel weird when you're talking about you having a child with disability. That disability does not change the fact that they are my children and I am proud of them. As parents, that is the one gift that can make a difference, because going through the process of denial and to the point of acceptance and actually speaking out, there has been great change. From non-speaking, my kids can now at least say some words and have communication. And that is what I want to put out there for our parents. We love and embrace our children. We involve them in everything that we do and ensure they have access. We are their voices for those who cannot speak. And we continue so that they can be able to access all that they deserve. Yes, yes.
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Sylvia, you've got a couple of seconds left. Thank you.
Yes, just flip over, I close. All right, thank you. All right, so these are some of the projects that we are running here as Andy Speaks for Special Needs Persons Africa. And over to the next slide. And for parents, this is my message to you. Your child is actually a person who can thrive and be the best they can. So don't be afraid of being named, being called that parent, but protect them, guard them, and ensure that they can get everything that they deserve. And I'm receiving all the love that I need. All right. Thank you, girls. You can just put on the concluding screen. And this is my son, Andrew. Yes. Yes, next slide. And there you go. So thank you for your time, and let's embrace our children for who they are and not what we expected them to be. That is my message to my fellow caregivers out there. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, Sylvia, and thank you for your inspirational speech. We really appreciate it, and for your commitment and the work that you do in Kenya and especially Tanzania as well. We really appreciate it, and you're making a difference on the continent, which is definitely needed. I just want to ask, is Sarah online?
Yes, I'm very much on.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Sarah's our next speaker, and he's a self-advocate from Kenya. Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate you being here to share your story in this limited time.
Thank you so much. So I'm Sarah Busibori, an autistic adult from Nairobi, Kenya, the same place where Dr. Sylvia Munchabo is from. Wow, what can I say about my advocacy? It started off in 2019 through pageantry, as I went for a pageant called Mr. and Miss Autism Kenya. So that was after a long period of not accepting myself as an autistic adult. So my journey of advocacy started from there. I'm also a bit relatable to Carmen's story, I think, of how you suddenly move out from an environment you're used to a mainstream university. And I dropped out of the university I was in because it was not so accommodative for me to. So I decided to have, is it self-discovery of some sort, and try and get a support system. So that's why I started my advocacy with a pageant, when I came to understand that many of us autistics individuals, just not adults because here in Kenya, most Kenyans, because of the lack of awareness, like how Sylvia was saying, that the awareness is far much more in South Africa than other countries in Africa. So we have a lot of challenges here in Kenya, especially, I'll just name but a few. So what I do is I also am an alumni for YALI, Young African Leadership Initiative. It was started by Obama, and after being an alumni, I became a PWD champion. My role is basically to bring all persons with disabilities together that are in such an initiative to kind of like include them. It's being inclusive for us to be included in some activities that YALI does. Yeah, I'll just name but a few challenges that I think we go through. Please do bear with me. I'm also nervous. I have anxiety disorder, ADHD, and autism. So, yeah, in Kenya, we have limited access to specialized support services and resources for individuals with ASD in Kenya. Like how Sylvia talked on the stigma and discrimination. We still go through stigma and discrimination, especially, it doesn't end from like from being a child. It also grows within, like, now becoming an adult. I would give a small example where when it comes to now transitioning from university and you've gotten like your letters, now you just have to deal with employment. So instead of the employer looking at the skills that you have, they tend not to look past your disability because, neurological conditions are invisible disabilities rather than the physical kind. But we still have employers that have the mentality that we cannot work, which is not true. And that is why we have less employment in most of our countries here. So I'd also talk about lack of awareness and understanding, especially in rural areas, upcountry, where, you know, in the capital city of each country, of each country we are at, we have a bit of knowledge. Sorry.
Sarah, you've only got a minute left. Apologies.
Oh, okay. It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have so much challenges, but then again, we also have a lot of people like Sylvia Mochabo, who are like our caregivers that are helping us, you know, push policies that can at least get us neurodivergents to have better education, healthcare services, get employment opportunities and such. So I'm really honored to be here. Yes, so it was just a few minutes and I'm a bit still anxious, but I'm glad that I've come to hear from other self-advocates like myself, especially the non-speaking. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Emily. Thank you so much for the organizers as well.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but you know, your story is inspirational and we want to give you an air of applause for your presentation. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Arya Shitra, who's the head of Nikon Youth and kids school in Dubai in United Emirates, who does a lot of work in Africa. Thank you, Aria. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emile. Can I share my presentation?
Yes, you can. Is she a presenter, Jem?
Let me do that.
Thank you.
Just while you're doing that, Aria, could I ask Devora Kobluk to turn her mic off, please? It's risky if I do it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Are you able to see my screen? Am I audible? Dr. Emile, can you just give me a heads up?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. This is Arya Chitra. I'm the head for Nikon Youth and Kids program. We have developed a program that is for children of determination. In UAE, we call special needs children of determination. We try not to use the special needs as a terminology to identify them. We call them children with determination because they are determined children. So we started this program. We came up with the Nikon Youth program in 2015. And as we started to work with children, we came to know the importance of working with children in all the spectrum. And that's where we found the urgent need of starting a program that is catering to children from all the spectrums, special needs, autistic sector, for Down syndrome. And that's where we started to work with Dubai Autism Center. And that's where the program was started. We formed a special curriculum where we started to teach children photography with our cameras. The importance of using a camera in teaching a child with special needs, for them to work towards the camera parts and going through the entire terminology is also a process of making them identify as a photographer. They become more confident, they become more expressive in terms of sharing their work. In our photography journey with children of determination, we always find that whenever they are taught with some perspective of the different genres of photography, they're trying to work towards capturing it exactly how we showcase them. There are different types and genres of photography that works very well when it comes to product photography, when it comes to landscape photography. The curriculum that we have formed for the Nikon Youth program is quite simple, where we start with teaching them about the camera terminology. And then we take them for a practical session on one-on-one by teaching them the aspects of taking a picture, from working towards the camera setup for how do you take a certain angle of pictures. So we make it a very one-on-one session with the children so that they retain the knowledge and they try to duplicate it every time. Dr. Emile, if there is any question in the chat box, you can always intimate me. I can reply to that question as well. So a collaboration and partnership, especially when we started, UAE was a region of interest, but then we started our operations in African continent as well. I started working with Tanzania. In Tanzania, we are working with Victoria's Center of Excellence, where we are starting a program in teaching photography in the center. So our model is quite simple. We try to collaborate with the centers. We train the trainers in taking care of the workshops. We have a proper lineup of trainings that a mentor or a trainer should go through. It's a series of workshops where we identify them as what is their interest in photography, And that's how we take them along in the course. So in Tanzania, we have Victoria Center of Excellence. Kenya is our major operations because we have a Nikon head office, Nikon Kenya, in the Kenya region. So we have PhotoStart is one of our collaborators where we are working with them and working towards the children from all the spectrum. The PhotoStart is a company which works with the youth sector and working towards providing them a technical skill set apart from their educational program. So PhotoStart also has a vertical that works with the special needs children, and we are working towards working on getting the regular workshops for the children so that they acquire photography as one of their skill sets and as they progress in their educational journey. With PhotoStart, we are actively working with the Kenya Community Center, where we try to engage with the students. Our photography workshops, if you may ask that, they're quite one-on-one when it comes to teaching the children. So we try not to take them in a batch of more than 5 students. We always have a 1-to-3 or a 1-to-5 ratio of teaching photography to the students. So this is from the Nairobi, Kenya. Then we are partnered with Teach for Kenya. Teach for Kenya, I'm sure everybody knows, it's a huge organization which works with children from the underprivileged background. Teach for Kenya also has an alumni sector where we work with the youth that are from the special needs sector. So we try to identify those individuals, give them this knowledge on technical, I would say, when it comes to photography filmmaking. And this is a recent workshop that we did in Nairobi, where we tried to got the entire the community from the alumni sector and got them in a basic training program. The workshop revolved around the photography theory, and then we did a practical setup of teaching them how to handle the camera and working on getting the shots around where we were. It was more of an indoor workshop. We are working with schools in Kenya. Children in Freedom School is one of our collaboration where we started to partner with the school. So we're trying to set up an after-school program where we identify the students from special needs background and train them after school with the technical skill of photography and filmmaking. This was a recent collaboration with children in Freedom School. We had a photography workshop with the grade 9 and 10 students. We also have been working with M-Pesa Foundation Academy. I'm sure you all know about that in Kenya. It's one of the, I would say, the biggest foundation that work towards empowering students from the underprivileged background. And we got an opportunity of collaborating with them. And with them as well, we are working towards identifying the children with special needs, giving them this skill set and this powerful tool so that this can be one of their part of the career choice. Zambia is also our new collaboration that we are working towards. In Zambia, we are working with Discover Zambia. With them, we're trying to identify the centers and the schools who have the children of determination and trying to get them on a regular workshop. So this project we have recently acquired. So we are planning to work on the operations by July. Ethiopia as well is one of our recent, I would say, acquisition where we're working towards identifying the children from the special needs background, because in my I would say experience, Ethiopia has been struggling with having the students to come in the normal sector. There are a lot of students who are in the waiting list. So we saw this opportunity of coming to that country, empowering them with a program like photography and teaching them the tools to kind of take this program further. So we have this idea of working on a seminar where we train the trainers as well as we empower the parents with how to take this program further in their one-on-one session with the children. In UAE, our operation has been running for more than 8 to 9 years now. We do a lot of workshop with the centers in UAE. Mawahib for people of determination. This is a center for children who are 18 plus, because in many of the centers they acquire the students who are under 18, but then a lot of individuals who are 18 plus miss out on having a technical program. So this is where we found Mawahib as a perfect fit and working towards teaching the individuals with the photography as a skill set, or maybe a hobby or a passion that they can take it forward. So this is our workshop from Mawahib. We have a lot of students from physical disabilities to mental disabilities, and photography is in fact quite easy for them to pick up and start practicing it. And this is what with our workshops have been working towards, bringing the program quite simple, quite engaging, on a one-on-one interaction. That's how they kind of get that interest in learning towards photography. These are some of the pictures from our workshop. The cameras that we have, this is something that is very important, because the cameras that we have are quite easy to use for any individual, and that's where it makes our job easy to teach them, because now the Nikon cameras are quite compact, they are touch screen, they have touch shutters. So a lot of things where even if there are certain challenges of the individuals, we try to kind of overcome that with the camera functionality. So Tender Hearts in Dubai has been our major collaboration. This is where we came with a very strong program in photography. And then I have a lot of students from Tender Hearts. They come and volunteer us in our program. I try to bring them back in our program, giving them opportunity of leading and teaching the photography to the other students. So they do a lot. We do a lot of volunteership with the people of determination, where this is very important for them to come back and give it back to the society, because that feeling of achievement and being the leader is something that we are trying to provide it with our Nikon Youth Internship Program for people of determination. So these are some of the snapshots from our Tender Hearts workshop. And these are my 3 interns that worked with me in the Sharjah International Film Festival. They were part of the program. They helped me during the workshop. In fact, all 3 of them are very proficient with the Nikon camera, with the technicalities as well as the creative skills.
Arya, your time is nearly up. So
thank you, Dr. Emile. So to conclude, this is what we are doing. We're trying to empower the individuals of determination. And this is what our small step in identifying that gap that we will like to kind of fill up, because this is what our mission and I would say the focus of the company is. So thank you so much, Dr. Emile, for providing me this opportunity. Thank you, everyone. If anytime if you want to collaborate and reach out, please, you can always, I have my contact details in the chat box. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Emile.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you very much, Arya. We really appreciate it. And thank you for the work that Nikon is doing. Just keep in mind, we're near the end of our session, our last speaker, and we also need to keep reference with regards to our captioner. Our last speaker is from the Premier's office, Zain Babouli, who is the Acting Chief Director of Transformation, Office of the Premier, to make his concluding remarks of the session and provide his opinions about today's session. Thank you very much, Zain. The floor is yours to end off the session. Thank you.
Hi, and thanks to all that's online. I see we've got about 64 delegates online, which is brilliant, Dr. Gouws, Emile, and wonderful to all of you. I'd like to start off by saying that South Africa was one of the first 10 countries in the world to sign and ratify the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And that goes way back in 2008. I don't have a video of myself or anything due to the bandwidth, so I'll just carry on speaking. I don't know if you guys can all hear me.
We can, thank you.
We can hear you.
Okay, and I'd like to start off by saying thank you to a few of my colleagues with is online. We've got Anthony Cluster from the Department of Treasury, and then I've got Dr. Nafisa Mayat from UCT University in Cape Town, and thank you for joining. Well, with all the different presentations that came through, it's mind-blowing to see what is happening around the autistic field, but also for us as a country, South Africa, to note that when we look at different types of disabilities, autism is merely much more marginalized compared to the others. And this is time where it has given me, as a chief director in transformation at the province of Gauteng, an eye-opener to see how we can include more people with autism, especially when it comes to employment. And noting that when it comes to employment, there is set targets within South Africa, and it's about 2% of people that needs to be employed in the public service. I can proudly say that in Gauteng, we already passed the 2% and we're almost onto the 4%. Furthermore, what we've done in South Africa is looking at SMME developments for persons with disabilities. So look, how do we do socioeconomic programs? How do we include people with disabilities in business? And we set aside target of 7% for companies to do business with government. And also noting that when they do business with government, we would pay them within 7 to 15 days for the services. So in terms of mainstreaming and delivering, we really went out an extra mile around socioeconomic, but moving forward around education, it's critical that to note that in Gauteng, we've opened up 12 schools for people with autism, and that is huge. I just had a meeting earlier today with the University of Johannesburg around the neurodiversity faculty and looking how we could forge a bigger partnership, working with them and the university that Dr. Emile works with, UNISA, so that we could see how we could collaborate and move forward for people with autism and taking it to the next level. Around transport, we make sure that people with disabilities have the opportunity to travel free on the network, public transport, and it's a challenge, but we're working towards that. So in closing, and I don't want to take much time, I'll hand over back to Dr. Gouws to give his closing remark, because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for him to have in terms of a side event at the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and the New York City. This is brilliant, and it's first that came out of a presenter from South Africa spearheading this. So I take my hat off for Dr. Gouws and his team and all the logistics and the logistics team that's online, that's making sure that this happened and to ensure that the rights are being noted. Again, as government, and I'm talking from having a cap on government, is that at the national level, we made sure that this particular program sit in the presidency, and there's a Department for Women, Youth and Persons with Disability in the presidency, which monitors and oversees these particular programs, as well as in the provincial offices, we have it at the Office of the Premier. So it is at this highest level that one would monitor, track, and also collaborate both with government institutes as well as higher education and various others to see the rights of people with disabilities are recognized. Dr. Gouws, I'll hand over back to you. It is your platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Babuli, and thank you for your support. Unfortunately, we run to the end of our session. We really want to thank you for joining, and also one of the delegates I want to notice, thank you, Minister Passmore as well for attending our session. Unfortunately, I couldn't give you enough time to speak or time to speak due to, the ending of our session. We already went over time, and we also need to give a captioner a break, which is over an hour. But thank you for your presence, Mr. Passmore, as well. And for all of our attendees, our speakers, we really appreciate it. And let's make this a global aim to have this side session, not only next year in COSP, but also at the Global Disability Summit next year and for future. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your time. We really appreciate it, and we made history together. Thank you very much.